note of your lunch, and then David will go get it.
Okay, yeah, the
Yes.
circulating piece of paper, we're gonna get Subway, right?
Yep.
So,
Where is there a Subway?
it's, go out here, take a left,
Okay.
take a left out here, and it's about 3 or 4 miles down the street.
In Big
On the left, yes.
Guys,
Yes.
you want to make sure you take good notes here. You want to learn this part well.
So just a sandwich, chips, and a drink, all right? And I'm paying for it. Sandwich, chips, and a drink. The meal, get the meal, all right?
Right there on there, you.
Just write that down. Turkey, whatever sandwich you want, what chips you want, what drink you want, and, is that piece of paper going around?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Don't want anybody hangry, so keep it moving.
We're gonna work through lunch today, guys, okay? Since I spoke just a little while longer than what I expected.
Alright, so hello everyone. So this is Ashik Shafi and I'm pleased to be here to talk about simple technological thing, and I'm really glad that Todd is going to help me out. So I will. So I am a assistant professor at Wiley College, and I teach mass communication. And so I teach television production and audio production. So this is something I also like share. So this kind of lessons I share it with the students. So. So let's try to first think about some of the basic things. Is that
Flip that on right there, please.
Sure. So which is that when we are shooting an interview, the technology matters as much as the content. Okay, so if we if the talk is great, if a person has great story to share, if a person has a lot of interesting experience to talk about, but if the video is hazy, if the video is blurred, or if suppose there is a piece of some like Simpsons, like if there is the cartoon Simpson on his back and showing some kind of doing this kind of like grimaces and things like that, then how does it gonna sound? Okay. Is it like you'll feel miscommunicated, you'll feel awkward, and nobody's going to listen to the interview. So we need to capture the interview in the proper way using the right technology and make it attractive. So make it as attractive as we watch the advertisement, or as we watch the movies, or as something that makes us to click on something on the computer. Right. So we don't click on boring videos. We click on something that is interesting. So something that is right on framing techniques, something that has applied all the traditions in video capturing, something that has proper sound recording. So, so we need to be. So those who are working on this project, we need to be serious on. We need to be make sure that the interviews are shot proper. Okay. So I will talk about some key techniques of operating video and capturing the interviews, and then Todd is going to talk about some practical aspects, that how it goes, what are the practical challenges when exactly you do this one. Okay, so now, so this slide will help you. So this slide has some pictures. It will help you to understand my point. So we'll go over this kind of different things. So first we'll look at what are the major camera equipment. Okay, what is in the camera? And then we'll talk about deciding the correct focal length, so how much you should move, zoom in or zoom out, and then I will talk about how to arrange a person's face on a frame, talk about checking the exposure, talk about checking the audio, and then we'll talk about changing camera angles, so just pan left and right and right. Okay, so we will go over each of them in this order. Okay, so I will, again, this slide, I can send you this slide on your email if you want me to. That will be absolutely be free. So I can share my email, and then you can send me an email. I can send it back or whatever. Okay. So it's totally fine. Now let's see. So in this picture, you can see this is just to say the pictures are not the writings are not very large. So, but this is how the professional cameras look like. Okay, so don't worry about the text. I'll explain it to you. So in all cameras, there is basically 3 parts. Okay. So in the front part, there is the lenses. Okay. So just like you see here, in the front part there is lenses, and in the middle part there is the video capturing unit. So which usually has some kind of chip that processes the video equipment, and then there is the viewfinder on the back. Okay. So again, 3 parts. first there is the lenses in the front, then in the middle part there is the chip or this computer technology part which process the video that is captured through the lens. Excuse me. And then at the back there is a viewfinder on which you can see what you're going to capture. Okay. So sometimes the video cameras on the top there are some extension facilities where you can you can attach a microphone, you can attach some AV cables, so you can use some other things which to enhance your capture. Okay. So now the thing you can control over is that in this place, usually in these places there is some sort of zooming feature, so which you can zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so the point you're not knowing is that you don't know which camera you would be using on during the show.
Yes, actually, we do.
Oh, okay.
We have them here.
Okay, so these are the actual cameras?
These are
Okay.
the actual cameras.
Okay.
Would it be okay to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what I was gonna tell you. Yeah, so it would be great if you know the basic features of the camera that you'll use and know them right now, a little bit.
A couple of here. It's got a weird dongly thing.
If you wanna take a look at it. See it,
He's not got a.
Does anybody need an extra camera?
So viewfinder flips out the side on that one. The zoom controls on the top.
Do you have one?
No, I can't go back to
You say on
No,
the
we-
top of the.
Who needs one? Who needs a camera?
yes, I would say if you
These are the actual cameras that we're gonna use
yes,
while we're doing interviews.
so you wanna check out the basic functions such as turn on and record and zoom in, zoom out and that sort of thing.
Whose camera is powered up? Raise your hand if your camera's powered up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so yours is powered up? All right, I think I'm gonna have to power one for you.
Oh, who doesn't have one?
She needs one.
Oh.
All right, and I'll power that one up in the back just in case for next one.
Do you want one of
Yours
these?
is powered, yours is powered,
yeah,
yours is
that's
powered,
okay, yeah.
yours is powered, yours is powered.
Oh.
Okay, thank
Maybe, let me see if I can charge this one for you. I don't know, last recovery.
Maybe I'll raise something.
You probably fine. How about yours?
Mine.
Yeah, that means it's low. 'Cause we only had an hour to charge them.
Oh, okay.
We just now started charging them while I was talking.
You charging from this side right here?
Yes.
Okay, so in these cameras, I can see that, so there is a zoom button on the top. Okay, so see that right to turn, zoom in and left, if you put left to zoom out. And then there is a start and a stop button right here. And then, yeah, be sure to like take off your lens cover. And basically that's it. So it is pretty good, like handy, lightweight. So it should be pretty easy to operate. Anything else you wanna show?
Is yours on?
Does
Yeah,
it take
yeah,
pictures?
go
I
ahead.
see the
Okay.
photo, the pictures. Does it take pictures as well?
It does, yeah.
I
It
think
does.
it will. I don't know that we'll be using it much for that purpose. I'll let you keep going. We do have a tripod for each camera.
Okay.
We get a little farther along, I'll give everybody a tripod and show you how that works, but want to make sure you get through what you get to share with us.
So, and on these cameras, okay, so Todd is going to show you more. So there's HDMI output and okay, so we'll get into this a little bit more, a little bit later. Okay. Now, one of the things is that whatever the type of cameras is that my talk will be applied to all types of camera use. So although I showed you a picture of like this really fancy camera, so this will cost a really lot more. But everything else I'll talk about will be also applied to these cameras. Okay. So.
We're not using it right now.
They're learning.
All right, so now let's go over into some basics. So one of the key things is focal length. So focal length is the distance between the camera, the center of the lens or curved mirror and its focus. Okay, so focal length is usually measured in millimeters. Okay, so millimeter doesn't know. 100 millimeter is equal to 1 centimeter, and 1 centimeter is, I think, kind of like 1/3 of an inch. Okay, so what we need to understand here is that what happens when we zoom in and what happens when we zoom out. So when we zoom in the camera, we increase the focal length. Okay, so what happens is that we get a narrow field of view. When we zoom out, we get a wider field of view. Okay, so you can check it with this camera right here. So which one has like Todd given you? To see that, just see. So just focus the camera on me. Okay, and zoom in, and then see that when you zoom in, you can get a narrower frame. Okay, you can see only a narrow part around me. When you zoom out, you can get a bigger. You can see a bigger part around me. Right? Right? Everyone understand? So probably when you zoom out, you can see a little bit like a broad frame. You can see like you can see to this board, and you can see you can see broader background. Okay. So when you zoom, So a major question in interviews would be, in capturing interview would be that whether you would zoom in or you should move the camera closer. Okay. So suppose I'm standing here. I should, so I can capture you by zooming in here. All I can do is by moving closer, right? So I can do two ways. So it is kind of, most people suggest, I think, is that it is better to move closer rather than zoom in most of the occasions. Now why? Is that when you zoom in, if you stand back and if you zoom in, you get a lower aperture. So you get lower amount of light. So often it distorts the background. Okay, often it distorts the.
You say move closer to get better light?
Yeah. So if you stand back and if you zoom in rather than moving closer, do you understand? Suppose if I record her, I'm standing back, and if I want to zoom on her, it is worse than moving closer to her. So moving closer is usually better, because if you move closer, you are using a wide background. You still get a wide field of view, and there is more light coming into your camera. So we'll go into that. Well, should we go into that? We'll not go into that how more light is coming, but you can just say that you can get a bigger aperture. So aperture is how light is entering into the cameras. There's a hole in this lens, and that it grows bigger and smaller as you. So in this camera it does automatically, but in this kind of like a better camera, I can also control that. So in most of the cases that so I'll say like don't put the camera back and then try to zoom in. Better if you move close to the object. So a medium now. Well, one thing I didn't tell you is that a human eye can see the focal length of human eyes is around 50 millimeter. So between 30 mm to 50 mm. So it is so most of the, so I don't know how the zoom is here.
On top?
No, I'm thinking how much is it? 1.8, I think 57 is the focus. I'm trying to see. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know about how much is the zoom? I guess it would be around 50, but probably around, pretty.
60x.
Okay. So looking at the lens, I think it says 57. I think that should be, so if you check on the top of the lens, it says 57. So I assume that is the zoom here. Okay. So the zoom here is C on the top here, 60x. That is not the zoom I am talking about. That is not the focal length. Okay. So that is the digital zoom, which is that how much you crop into the picture. That is not the zoom I'm talking about. So it has a fixed zoom. Okay, the point is it has only one focal length. So but these cameras, they have variable focal length. So you can change the focal length here. But this camera has only one lens, and you cannot remove the lens. So it has a fixed focal length. Okay. So assuming it is 57 mm, so I assume it is 57. 57 is pretty close as human can see. Okay, so you don't wanna distort that view. So you don't wanna keep the zoom in around 30 to 50 mm. So with this camera, I would say it is probably you don't wanna try to zoom in. You just like move closer to the object. That should give you the best picture. Okay, anything that you wanna say anything about this, like moving and zooming in?
No, my plan is to have all of the rooms set up for you with the tripod and the camera and kind of the interview station. So hopefully, all you'll need to do is adjust for the person who's in the chair to be interviewed, right? Because they'll all be different heights. So we'll get into that later. But I'm planning to have all this set up, but definitely good understanding for everybody to be able to
Yeah.
know why we're doing what we're doing.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
With the interviewing process, they're gonna be sitting on a couch or in a chair?
I think in a chair, Steve, what,
Yeah, the chair.
it's, our place is a classroom
They're in the
building,
classroom,
right?
okay.
So, again, I'll try to find some chairs that look good or are not too obtrusive, but are also comfortable.
Okay.
I got one other question, Steve.
Yes, sir.
When we have the interview teams, is it gonna be at least two people? in
Two,
each room?
yes. One
So-
during the interview and one working the camera.
Yeah, so maybe trade off, or if you just love fiddling with cameras, then do that all day.
Yes.
You're ready to sign up for that one?
I like the camera.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
our goal is to have you guys switch out.
Okay. Now, one thing we will see now is an important thing, and that was the angles will be set up, but you still need to like keep this in mind because sometimes subjects can move out of the frame. So when you are arranging the frame, everybody can see this picture. So when you are arranging the frame and the subject in the frame, there is something that is called maintain the rule of third, which is divide the frame into 9 blocks. Like this nine blocks. So draw 2 lines in the middle, 2 lines on the horizontal, and the center of the frame should be in one of the 4 intersections. Okay. So I will close the light so that you can see it better. So see that in this frame, the center of the frame. Okay. So where is the center of the frame here? Where it seems to be, yeah,
Right there.
right there. Okay. So center is not the geometric center here. The center means that where is the most important part of in this frame? Where is the center of the most important object here? Okay. You see that obviously this is not the most important part, right? This is the most important. So and even on this section is the most important because our eye moves into this object first. Okay. So this object should be the center of this object should be in either of the 4 intersections. So it could be here, or it could have been here as well. So you could have framed the camera, you could have panned the camera a little bit light and put this object here and then probably show some background on right. So that would be a good follow. So follow this rule of thumb. Now let's see this another example. Okay. So see this obviously here. Everybody see the center of the center of the frame is in this baby. Okay. So in a human body, usually the center of the frame is in the heart. Okay, in the chest. In a face, the center of the human face is where? In the air?
Center of the face?
Yeah. Yeah, right in the forehead. Okay. If you're shooting a human portrait, you wanna put the center of your eye in either of the 4 intersections. Now it is better to put on the top 2 ones. Okay, the top 2 ones is the better.
Center mass.
Yeah, center mass. Everybody understand this thing. So when you're shooting interview, be sure to follow the frame, arrange the frame like this way, so that the subject stays, the center of the subject, the center of the eye is kind of in this intersection or in this intersection. Don't put on the subject in the middle. Okay, that is like if you're a filmmaker, you will do that, but usually it produces a bad vibe. Sometimes it just doesn't like look well. Okay, so. Don't put the subject at the very edge of the center. At the very edge of the frame. Okay. Don't put her here. Don't put her here. Don't put her right here, or don't put her in the middle. So, put her kind of in the side, but not exactly on the edge. You understand?
Yeah.
So now in the last year's video, so you can see that often some videos were great, but in some video it could be improved by moving this, like just changing the frame a little bit. Okay, so a common mistake is that everybody try to put this in the center. It's just common, like because we say no, like, let's just put her in the center. Okay, that is not the way camera filmography works. Okay, everybody understand? Now let's move into another thing. Is that headroom? So when you're shooting when you are recording a human figure, you need to leave some room for head. Okay. So see that this photo has a bad headroom. So there is too much room over her head. So there should be some room, little bit of room over or above the head, and some more room below the chin. Okay, and see that it follows the rule of the third, right? Rule of the third format. So this is slightly indented right. So sometimes you see that interviews they take place that the head is put on right over here, so you can just barely see the top of the head or things like that. But always given some room on the top of the head and a little bit more room on the below the chin. Okay. Now what else about the headroom? Let me go back to the headroom because this will be already applied to that. And when you are arranging the set, you wanna think about like what objects you should put on the table. So probably they would sit on a table and there will be a desk. So you'll be recording part of the desk as well. So you're gonna put on something beautiful like maybe a flower or an object or something. So like don't just look around and see if there is something odd on the frame. So if there is something that is really sharp color like red or yellow, you don't want to put that on the frame. Okay. So see that if every kind of color has a combination. So notice the color, the dress she is wearing, and notice the object around, and so check those accordingly. Okay. So don't look at the frame really carefully, and don't put on something odd. Any questions so far? Anything Todd you wanna add? Yeah.
No, I think we're good. Keep going.
Okay, good. So now one thing I would say, this is not very relatable actually for interviews, but this is just some concept that it's better for you to understand. If you know it, will help you. So one of these. So let's think about 3 different things rather than 9 blocks. So just choose three different blocks here. So so long shot, medium shot, and close-up shot. Let's do this. Let's understand these 3 pictures. So long shots is when you show the figures from top to bottom, take the whole human body. Medium shot is when you take the half of the human body, such as waist. Close up when you take the picture or when you take the frame of the human face, or only the human face, not the other parts of the body. Now, in interviews, usually you follow mostly as I've seen that you follow medium close up. So you take the picture of the waist or a little bit up from this. So kind of from the chest to the head. Okay, but don't take the picture. Don't shoot only the face. Okay, and don't shoot the whole human body either. So obviously, we will arrange the kind of the settings. But if suppose the subject kind of moves, or if she sit back or sit front, you make sure that the video is captured properly. Okay. So again, try to shoot from the chest to the top. Leave some headroom. Leave some. Make sure the subject is following the rule of third, like either one of the intersections of the frame, and so make sure that the frame looks good overall. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now let's explore right there. Okay. So now I was gonna say the arranges to give a positive feeling to the audience and put some objects on the table. If there is something nice, something doesn't look odd on the camera, so it may be a flower, it may be a souvenir or something. But it is better to suppose if you're shooting somebody, the video, it's better to put something by her side, some kind of artifact, some kind of objects. Okay, but obviously you don't want to put on something odd. That's it. Now, moving on. Any question? Anything you wanna add? Let's discuss. Just raise your hand. I'm pretty close.
Is that object part of the scene that you're capturing on video? Or
Yeah.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. So I would say, anything that just looks good. So it can be totally cheap. Something can be some kind of souvenir, like a little flower or little showpiece or something, or just the logo of the logo of your organization or your college or something.
Steve, I'll try to find something
Okay.
to use in all the rooms for that.
Okay.
Yeah. It can be pretty cheap. Yeah.
Does the color of the object matter?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. So I would say like avoid bright colors, okay, and avoid something that really contradicts the color, the dress of that person is wearing. So something that no, something light color is always good. So like I'll say the colors that should avoid is that red or yellow. Okay, something like red is something very catchy, right? So if you put a red objects by her side, then just looks odd on the film. So better to avoid red, yellow. Choose like blue or green or like black, gray, white. That's fine. Okay, but I'll just say just don't choose something that kind of like make people look at that. Yeah.
So basically earth tones? Earth tones?
Yeah, art tones. Okay. Now we will go, well, that brings us kind of in a, oh yeah, then one more thing is do basic makeups on your subject. Now you don't wanna like say, okay, how to do a makeup room, and it's not like that's fashion photography, you're doing that. But if your subject, is just like, so just do some basic things as much as you being polite, okay? So if the subject, suppose like leave her glass on the table, and the glass is, if her eyeglasses are like, top, like put on like the top, like the bottom is on the top, and it is just laying around, like, looking odd. You want to just request her, okay, can I put this glass away, or things like that. Yeah. So let me show you. So suppose like she put down her glass, and the glass is sitting like this. Okay. Suppose the glass is sitting like this. Okay. It doesn't look good on camera. So you can just you just use your creativity to put the objects in a way that this shows great. You can also ask her that, okay, can I put your hair like a little bit away, and do some basic, as much as you can do without being impolite, right? So many of the subjects will be elderlies, so obviously you wanna make you obviously have that utmost respect for them, but like for the sake of the video, don't, like, if there is something simple that can change the look. So suppose her hair is over her face, right? Everyone understand? If her hair is over her face, you can just tell her that, okay, can push up your hair a little bit. Okay, if her cap is over his eyes, then you can just tell him that. Okay, so just make the subject appear well dressed and well prepared. Make it look professional. Now, one last thing is that again, you just probably doesn't apply to this interview again, because you'll be arranging all the lights, but just it's good to know these things. Was that exposure is what that involves light. Okay, yeah. So how much the picture is properly exposed to light, picture or the video is properly exposed to light. So that includes aperture setting, ISO setting, white balance. So you'll work on those things when you use a professional camera. But for this thing, we will arrange all the things because we will be providing lighting, we'll be providing the equipments, and we'll pre-arrange everything. So probably I'll say you just don't need to know them unless you are really interested. Okay. So underexposed. So this is the normal from the camera. This is properly exposed. Overexposed photos or videos. That's something where it is light washed, where there is too much light. So you cannot really see the difference between objects. And underexposed is that there is like lesser light. Okay, there is too little light. So properly exposed photos have a proper balance of light and color. So this can be changed by changing the aperture, white balance, and the ISO of the camera. But again, like for this interview, you don't need to worry about these things. Okay, so now microphones. So there could be different types of microphones that can be used for. I think John, if you want to talk about how they will use the mic, because this is a really important part of the thing. We sometimes ignore the sound part of the video, but if for interviews, the sounds must be clear and there should not be any loss. So you really want to make sure that the sound is being captured exactly as you want. Yeah.
So yeah, I got. Let me just take a minute or two to do a quick exercise. So if you would, just go with me here for a second. Close your eyes and listen. I'll give you about 10 seconds and ask you to just kind of make a list in your head of all the sounds that you hear. Okay, what did you hear? Projector's got a kind of whirring noise going up
I
there.
heard that insect right there behind us going up there.
Some kind of bug trying to find his way out. Yeah, what else?
I heard the humming sound over there, I heard somebody swallow.
I heard somebody breathing.
Somebody yawning.
Yeah. There's also some kind of hum that's coming from
That's
over
what
this
he
way
said,
somewhere.
yeah.
Maybe there's a chiller outside. I don't know what it is. There's some kind of air conditioning noise. Right? One of the things we noticed with last year's videos is that we heard a lot of air conditioning on the videos. And what we really want to hear is the story, not so much the air conditioning. So one of the things we're going to do this year is use these lapel mics like he's wearing. Would you mind pulling that little recorder out of your pocket there? Maybe it's in the, yep. So this is going to increase your workload a little bit as far as whoever's operating the technology in the room, because you're going to have to record, right? Deal with the camera, do the framing like he was just talking about, get the camera all set up and going, and then also deal with this thing, which is another recorder. Now, it's gonna make more work for those of us that are dealing with all these recordings after the fact, because then I gotta combine what's on this recording with what's on the video recording and make sure, you know, all those words match up. Yeah, definitely. Now,
So this is gonna sync with the actual?
Yes.
Oh, it is?
we will, I mean, it won't, on its own, it'll take
Right.
some work, but that'll all happen after the fact. Y'all won't have to deal with that unless you just want to, and then talk to me later and all. Because otherwise I won't be doing it all. I'm super excited about that. So, when it comes to these things, it matters where it is, right? And the closer it is to the source of the sound, the better it picks up the sound. In general, what you want to do is do your hand like this, put your finger on your chin, and where your thumb winds up on your chest, that's the best place to put it. Right? So for me, maybe right in here. So yeah, do your finger like this, put your finger on your chin, and then I want to put the mic right here where my thumb lines up. Now, I've had folks that were wearing a scarf, right? That spot wound up under the scarf, and next thing you know, you got all this going on. So somebody's wearing a tie that you know, for video, you'd kind of wish to not see the thing, right? But for the purposes of what we're doing, I'm not gonna worry about that. So positioning the mic, that's kind of where it goes. The other thing is, I'm gonna ask those of you to have at least one set of headphones. If we have time this afternoon, I got enough of these for y'all to all try it, right? And we'll plug some headphones into it, because there's a little meter that'll show up on it. And what we wanna do is make sure it's loud enough, but not too loud. Because if the recording is set too loud, it'll feel like this. Yeah, nobody wants to listen to that. We'd rather listen to air conditioners and something like that. All right, so that's that piece of adjusting the device, and then of course you have to hit record. I once sat on the chancel of a wedding and videoed the whole wedding, only to find out I forgot to ever press record for the wedding. The bride and groom are not real pleased with that result, right? So now we got two things we got to make sure we're pressing record on. I'm going to make you a checklist for every interview so that you can remember, oh yeah, I gotta check record on that.
Todd, does the interviewee and interviewer have one of these?
No, I've just got enough of these for the person being interviewed.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to talk some more about that, and I think you'll probably have some things to say about it this afternoon about how we want to view our interaction as interviewers and the way that interviewee is, and some ways to think about and regard that. The long and the short of it is, this is their show, and we're speaking only to the extent that we're looking for more opportunity to listen. Right? So everything we say in these interviews with the intent of eliciting some more for us to listen to, right? To satisfy curiosity. So we're gonna be all the time stirring up curiosity. And for that reason, there'll be a mic in the camera that will pick up your voice, because for the archive recording, we want to hear you. It's not that we don't care about you, right? We want to hear the questions being asked and how the entirety of the conversation. But in terms of being able to put together product that we can turn loose on the internet and send to TV stations and do stuff with, we want to make sure the person being interviewed is clear. Everybody got a lunch order turned in?
Did you want to do yours?
Yeah, I'll take whatever you're having.
Okay.
Okay. First you, then you.
I have a GoPro, I'm using that.
GoPro?
I have a GoPro and I have a remote for
So,
when I
yeah,
edit,
anything else
like when I'm doing certain things.
Uh-huh.
Or what I'm trying to ask, do you have a wireless thing so we can actually press both of them to go at the same time? Because I know you're saying we gotta go like this.
Yeah, okay, so here's the other thing about that. And I'll build this into your checklist, right? So you'll have got your person mic'd up, you'll have got your camera set up, you'll be kind of all ready to go. Before you start the conversation, which will begin with, I'm Todd Porter and I'm with Kairos Collaborative and I'm here interviewing whoever you're interviewing, right? There's a little boilerplate that goes in front of the links. Before you do that, everything's turned on the recording, do this in front of the camera. What that does is you can see it in the audio
You
file
heard it from the source.
from the camera's mic, and I can see it in the audio file from this thing, so it makes it really easy to line it all up after the fact.
So you're saying
Those are
once
just major
you
foundations.
station or?
No, before you do any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the first real recording is a nice clap, and it helps if I can see it happen on the camera too, because then I got a visual that I can make sure I line those
Basically,
audio.
you gotta go on this take one.
Yeah, and if I wasn't so cheap, I'd buy you a bunch of those little clapper things. I spent all my money on microphones, so no clapper things, you're gonna have to use the ones you're born with. Okay, yeah, exactly.
That's after.
All right, so, I'm sorry,
Oh,
yes.
that's all right. You said you want to hear us ask the questions. Now, will the questions be given to us?
They get double, they get longer.
Yeah, so I've got an interview guide that we're gonna experiment with this
Kind of
afternoon.
orientated and triggered.
Is there another one of these? I only have two,
Yes, sir.
two orders.
Oh, right there.
We're gonna do a little loaves of fishes actually. 2 sandwiches there, that'd be exciting. Okay, so I will have an interview guide for you to try